can't say you've been to Cuba if you sat by the beach the whole time. That's why we came to Havana. Welcome to my Havana vlog. A beautiful 1952 Chevrolet came to pick us up from the airport. Cuba is known for its classic cars, but more on that later. We decided to stay in the old Havana area. In Spanish, it's called Havana Vieja. I picked a spot right by the old plaza, Plaza Vieja, and it was the best decision ever because it was so lively. This is the area where rich people used to live back in times. It's so much better than staying in a typical hotel. We're finally here, Havana, Cuba. Our first breakfast at our place was very basic. If you want to get something fancier, then you have to look for a cafe, but do your research. We then watched Havana waking up from our balcony. And then it was time for a walking tour. The 3-hour tour with Jorge was absolutely amazing. It was very informative. So we're here in Havana and we're doing a tour, and Jorge was absolutely amazing, telling us everything about the culture. So the quick question, Jorge, why would anyone should come to Havana or to Cuba?
Right, so from my point of view, you actually need to come to Cuba. I know there is a lot of propaganda outside Cuba, and they're telling you not to come to Cuba because now Cuba, I mean, we're undergoing a severe economic crisis. We're suffering from a lot of power cuts, a lot of charges. But I mean, to come to Cuba and live the experience is a unique thing and something that you should actually do in Cuba. And by the way, when you come to Havana, please come with me, with Jorge.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. I have included his information down in the comment section. One thing that became apparent from the tour is the economic condition of the country. Jorge gave us a chance to visit a place where local people live.
Look the conditions. If you think this is terrible, I invite you to go house upwards. Like you see that stair leads you to a bedroom. The altar.
Wow.
Yeah. In case they practice spiritism.
The average salary in Cuba is $20, not per day, per month. I still can't get my head around it. We went to local market and I couldn't believe the prices. Fresh onions, for example, were more expensive than what we have in Canada. A pack of 30 eggs is sold for more than $10. Absolutely unreal. Things went downhill for Cuba with the collapse of Soviet Union in the mid-90s and with continuing embargo from the US and the economic situation in Venezuela, Cuba's largest trading partner, the situation in Cuba is getting worse every year. The economic situation becomes apparent when you walk the streets of Old Havana. But when we ventured outside of the Old Havana, what we saw was beyond our imagination. Very sad. Now let's talk about what you can do in Havana. Well, you're in Cuba, that means you have to get a Cuban cigar. They don't sell them everywhere. They only sell them in specific stores, and there are only a few of them around the city. Now, people will also be offering you cigars on the streets, but I'm sure they are much lower quality, so I would avoid them at all costs. Spend a few hours walking the streets of Old Havana. Obispo Street is one of the liveliest ones. It ends at Plaza de Armas, one of the four main squares of Old Havana. In one of the parts of the square, they had wooden floor rather than stones. Why? Governor's wife was disturbed by carriages passing by, and then the governor came up with a solution. They made the floor out of wood, which kept the carriages quiet. Cars. You will see a lot of old cars in Havana. Most of them are old US cars as well as old Ladas, Russian cars. The reason for so many US classic cars is because US proclaimed an embargo on Cuba in 1962. Most of the cars you see on the streets of Havana are the ones that were imported prior to that, at least the US cars. This is one of the reasons it's said that Cuba is stuck in 50s. But I think you would agree that it gives Havana a very unique look. Speaking of cars, you must absolutely rent one of those bad boys here in Havana, but don't worry, you don't have to drive. Each car comes with a driver. Now, in our case, instead of renting a car, we took a photo tour, which included riding in one of those cars. Our photographer, Chris, was absolutely amazing. And then it was time to light up my first Cuban cigar. I don't smoke, so Chris had to help me with that.
Ah, there you go. Perfect. So you gotta keep smoking.
We loved how the pictures came out, so I would highly recommend Chris for anyone who would like to do a photo shoot in Havana. I put his contact information in the comment section. Check out some of the final pictures from that day. Navigating through Havana. It's very easy to walk through the city if you don't mind walking. In old Havana area, everything is super close. And if you're not comfortable walking the dark streets of Havana, and believe me, they are dark, you can take a bike taxi. We did it once and it was a lot of fun. There are many different ways to navigate around Havana, and today we're taking a bike taxi. On another occasion, we took a taxi. It was an old Lada. It was 45 years old, and the mileage was over 1 million kilometers. They say they don't have mechanics in Cuba. They have magicians. I can't even imagine what it takes to maintain those cars. Park Central is the most liveliest place in Havana. It is surrounded by beautiful buildings, and we had the pleasure of visiting some of them. One of the buildings we visited there was the Grand Theater of Havana. They do offer tours there, and even though the building was under renovation, we absolutely love this tour. I would highly recommend it. It included going up to the roof, which offers some of the best views of the city.
Even when she was alive. And it was a status quo.
Another beautiful building in that area that's worth mentioning is the Capitol building. It looks like the Capitol building in Washington, and it's slightly higher than the US one. When in Havana, take a stroll down the Paseo del Prado, which divides the old Havana from the central Havana. Havana has islands of luxury, if you can call them that way, dispersed all around the city. We came across one of them as we were finishing our walk along the Paseo del Prado, and it was called Paseo del Prado Hotel. Inside, we discovered a cafe, which was a very good timing for us. And you definitely need to walk along the Malecón roadway that stretches 8 kilometers, 5 miles across the coast of Havana. This is where local people come in the evening to relax and distress. We had a few hours to kill before our dinner, so we came across this cafe bar that was overlooking the ocean, and we spent a couple hours there. If you have time, visit Fusterlandia. A local artist, Jose Fuster, turned his home and his neighborhood into a masterpiece. It's a mosaic madness. He was inspired by Picasso and Gaudi. It's early morning here in Havana, and today we are going to Fusterlandia. Just waiting for our ride to arrive. There they are. Hola. Bienvenida a Havana. Havana, Cuba. On the way back, we stopped at the historic Revolution Square.
Oficina de Raúl Castro, hermano de Fidel.
From this tower, Fidel Castro was making historic speeches while hundreds of thousands of Cubans listened to him on the square. Now, if you want to experience luxury in Havana, go to Hotel Kempinski. It features a few bars, and its rooftop, I believe, has the best views of the city. Now let's talk about food in Cuba. Let's face it, food is a very important part of experience when you're going to a new country. And in the case of Cuba, the odds were not in our favor. I watched a few vlogs before coming here to Cuba, and most of them were saying that food is not great. Even my boy Drew Binsky said about that in his vlog.
I gotta say something. The food in Cuba is not all that great, which is why there hasn't been any food content in this video.
But I made my research about Havana's restaurants, and I can confidently recommend some of them to you guys. Antojos restaurant. Amazing food and great ambience. We came here twice. You can sit outside on the street or inside. Service were top notch. Perfect. Sibarita, amazing tiki cocktails. The food was pretty good. The prices were very reasonable. Just to give you an idea, we paid just over $30 for the two of us. Azúcar, mouth-watering beef tacos and not so good pizza. Cool decor with a view of Plaza Vieja. Cha-cha-cha. Food was very good and cocktails, like in most of the places here, were amazing. The ambience was really good with the live music. Did you know the birthplace of mojito? It's Havana, Cuba. Beautiful. Mojito restaurant was also on my list of places to visit, but when we came there, it was closed for renovation, so be prepared for this type of changes in your itinerary. La Guarida, they have a rooftop seating. The food was very good. Don't be surprised by the entrance though, it is located in the old building. I want to mention that all these restaurants are located within the old Havana area. And last but not least, Cafe del Angel. We discovered this place and we absolutely loved it. We came here twice. Listening to live music here and enjoying great food was one of the highlights of our visit to Havana. Woke up this morning and there's no power. Apparently this has been happening in Havana and in Cuba more often these days. Check it out, even the fountain has shut down. Let's see if we can find some breakfast. Our last night in Havana, and this happens. It's 6:30 p.m. here in Havana, and it's complete darkness. The lights are out, another power outage, and even if we go somewhere over there, the streets are complete darkness. Like you can't even walk the streets. I'm not even sure if we're gonna get dinner today. And just when I finished making this video, the lights came back, people were applauding. The life is back here in old Havana. Beautiful. Gracias. Beautiful. Thank you. Now we can say we've been to Cuba. If you like this vlog, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see my other vlogs from around the world. Viva Cuba!